Hello to everyone. Many thanks, Lily, for introduction, and many thanks for your time for attending this webinar, and many thanks for your interest in Central Asia. I hope you hear me well. My name is Ludmila. I am managing partner of Forvis Mazars in Central Asia, and here you have on the slide our email and contacts. And Forvis Mazars in Central Asia has offices in Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, and Kyrgyzstan. It is Almaty, Astana, Tashkent, and Bishkek core cities in Central Asia. And we provide all the services Forvis Mazars provide worldwide. It is audit, accounting, tax, financial advisory, consulting. And let's move to our agenda. I will take for the presentation around 45 minutes, and I will leave for questions and answer session 50 minutes in the end. And we will start from macroeconomic overview. We will talk about investment opportunities in Central Asia. I will give a high-level outlook to legal structures for doing business in these countries. I will give you some taxation insights for doing business in these countries, and we will share with important practical business tips that we know and we think is important for investors. It will be our practical vision. So let's start from macroeconomic overview. Here on this slide, you see a map of 3 countries we are going to talk about in Central Asia. It is Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, and Kyrgyzstan. And all in all, these 3 countries cover 63 million people of population. And Kazakhstan is the biggest country by territory, and Uzbekistan is second by territory. Kyrgyzstan is the smallest one. Kazakhstan and Kyrgyzstan border with China, and Uzbekistan doesn't have borders with China. With yellow dots, you see here the capitals. In Kazakhstan is Astana. Astana historically wasn't a capital of Kazakhstan. Historical capital used to be Almaty, you see below here, near to border with Kyrgyzstan. But in 90s, it was moved for political reasons to Astana, and it was very good strategic decision done by President Nursultan Nazarbayev. The biggest business center is still Almaty. It has 2.3 million population in Kazakhstan. The second big is 1.5 million population in Astana has a capital. Capital of Uzbekistan is Tashkent. You see here its population is 3 million, and capital of Kyrgyzstan is Bishkek. Its population is 1.1 million. They have very good strategic location close to each other, you understand, and it is very good for doing effective and operational business within these 3 countries, because all core business cities are quite close to each other. In terms of population, you see on the right hand the chart bars about population dynamics for the last 6 years. And you see that population of Kazakhstan as of today is around 20 million, population of Kyrgyzstan is around 7 million people, and Uzbekistan is 36 million people. It is the biggest by population country. This is a key takeaway from this slide. Biggest by population, and Kazakhstan is biggest by territory. And you see that there is very good growth rate. It is very stable. Each country is growing per annum by 10% in average. And for example, if you take China, China wasn't growing in terms of population for last 2 years. And these countries are stably growing. Average salary, it is kind of official sources information. It is average salary based on official sources. It is $100 per month in Kazakhstan and twice less in Uzbekistan and Kyrgyzstan. Before jumping into economic, we need to understand what is behind this economic, what is political regimes and how does it impact economies. In Kazakhstan, current president is Kassym-Jomart Tokayev. He became president in 2019, and he's successor of Nursultan Nazarbayev, who used to be president of Kazakhstan for 28 impressive years, and he was the first president of Kazakhstan after Soviet Union period. And Shavkat Mirziyoyev, he is president of Uzbekistan from 2018, and he is successor of Islam Karimov, who also was the first president after Soviet Union of Uzbekistan, and he was president of Uzbekistan for impressive 25 years. So they, in terms of this political regime, seems like they are quite the same, but actually it is not the same. I will tell the details later. Kyrgyzstan current president is Sadir Japarov. He is president from 2021, and Kyrgyzstan's president has been changing once every 5 years at least for the last 20 years. What is important to understand here about political regime, highlight is to Uzbekistan, because Uzbekistan during Karimov's presidency period for 25 years actually was kind of following the model of the Soviet Union, and it was practically closed for foreign investors. And Karimov led very this kind of policy. It was really similar to Soviet Union, and still with when President Mirziyoyev came in 2018, he started very very ambitious plan on the liberalization of economy, and we see it very it is obvious, and you will see it on the charts later. And still significant part of business in Uzbekistan belongs to the government, and there is very kind of very good lots are available for privatization now, and privatization is core strategy of President Mirziyoyev. In Kyrgyzstan, there were revolutions in 2005 and 2010 when a new president came up after revolution. Let's move to gross domestic product. Gross domestic product of these countries is, you see on the left chart here, dynamics of growing of GDP in Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, and Uzbekistan. And you see that although population of Kazakhstan is not biggest in this region, GDP is the biggest one. It is bigger than in Uzbekistan and Kyrgyzstan, at least around 3 times, even more for Kyrgyzstan. And it is growing, but you see that there was slowdown during pandemic years in 2020, and but in 2021 and 22 and 23, it was catched up. Kyrgyzstan GDP is also stably growing, and also there was slowdown during COVID-19, and also in Uzbekistan GDP is growing much faster. Growth rate is much higher, as you see. There was slowdown in 2020 as well, but it wasn't decreased, which is unlike these two countries. If we see a GDP per capita, which is nominal GDP, you see that in Kazakhstan it is the highest. It is much higher than in Uzbekistan and Kyrgyzstan. And you need to understand that in China, GDP per capita is around 30,000 USD as well, a nominal one. And here for Kazakhstan is the same. So it is quite the same things we are talking about here when we talk about China and Kazakhstan. And for Kyrgyzstan and Uzbekistan, it is much less. It is for Kyrgyzstan 1.8 USD per annum per person, and Uzbekistan is 2.5 thousand USD per annum. If we speak about local currency, how stable is local currency? Because all business inside the country is done in local currency. When you come as an investor, you need to understand how stable the currency is. Actually is constantly devaluating for last 20 years in all 3 countries. But if we take outlook to these 6 years, we see that Kyrgyz som in Kyrgyzstan was stable. It is stable because it is regulated currency. It is not free floating currency. If we take Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan, it is slowly devaluating. For Kazakhstan is around 10% during 6 years. For Uzbekistan is much more. For investor, it is good because if you come from China and invest in yuan or in US dollars, your local currency will be devaluating. Let's move further. If we look at structure of gross domestic product, what is the economy, which industries are core industries in these countries? For the Kazakhstan GDP, you see below the bars showing the dynamics of GDP growth and per sector. And you see that in Kazakhstan, the leading sector is trade, and then mining, and then manufacturing. In Uzbekistan, the leader sector is agriculture. Agriculture is because for 25 years, Karimov led very closed economy, very similar to Soviet Union, and Uzbekistan was actually very independent in terms of its economy. It really invested in agriculture. It had all the food. It is self kind of. I would say feeding country. It has everything inside Uzbekistan, and also it does a lot of export of vegetables to neighbor countries, including Russia and China. And also Uzbekistan is really strong in manufacturing here. It is strong in manufacturing because during Karimov presidency period, all the plants, automotive industry were based in Uzbekistan, and nothing was, very few, no cars were allowed for importation to Uzbekistan. There were very high import duties, and it is still high. And that is why only Chevrolet car factory actually was present in Uzbekistan. And if you came to Uzbekistan like 5 years ago, you would see on the streets Chevrolet cars only, and because only one plant in Uzbekistan supplied the full country with cars. But President Shavkat Mirziyoyev has changed his trend, and he decreased import duties for electric cars, and there is now great opportunity for Chinese business in terms of electric cars in Uzbekistan. We already start to see a lot of electric cars coming in Uzbekistan, and it is good business opportunity for Chinese automotive industry. Kyrgyzstan GDP is mainly from trade because of its good location nearby China, and manufacturing and agriculture. Let's move further. Let's look at export and import of these countries. Here we have a slide devoted to Kazakhstan only. Kazakhstan imports a lot from China. In 2023, you see that China became a leader in terms of importation to Kazakhstan in 2023, before the lead was with Russia. So you see here the kind of shift of the leader. And what is imported? Machinery. 44% of importation is machinery, then chemicals, and then agriculture. What is exported from Kazakhstan? You see that export was decreased in 2023, and it was increased in terms of export to other countries, but a lot of exportation is done to Italy, China, and Russia. And what are top exported categories? It is, of course, minerals, oil, gas, and uranium. It is metals, which is copper, aluminum, and zinc. Kazakhstan is rich in oil and gas because it has borders, it has direct access to Caspian Sea. And also we have here agriculture and chemicals. Let's go to Uzbekistan. Uzbekistan imports a lot from China as well. And you see here in 2022, China took lead over Russia, and also the same shift as in Kazakhstan. And in 2023, it became already #1 importer to Uzbekistan. It has 30% of shares as of 2023. What is imported? It is mainly machinery. because you understand, because the company led for 25 years kind of closed economy. Now it is in very high need of equipment, machinery, cars, and everything. And vehicles share is growing. I talked about this electric cars change in recently, and that is why share of importation of vehicles is growing, and we predict it will be even more. What is exported from Uzbekistan? Top export go to Russia, then to China, and Kazakhstan and Turkey. And what is exported mainly? Mainly it is precious metals. Uzbekistan has very good deposits of gold, silver, lead, copper, zinc, and titanium, and it is one where all their strategic kind of goals of the government. And so you see that in 2023, there is great breakthrough in terms of exportation of metals. And also Uzbekistan is leader in production of cotton. And here you have very good share of textile, but in absolute numbers, it haven't really changed, but in share, it decreased. Let's look at Kyrgyzstan. Kyrgyzstan is importing a lot as well in 2022, in 2023 from China, and you see that there is great increase. It is, I would say, the reason of that is war in Ukraine, because logistical chains and routes has changed, and a lot of importation were assigned to Russia went through Kyrgyzstan, and that is why we see here this kind of shift. And importation level, because of war, also really increased. What is imported? It is manufacturing and other stuff. And as for the exports, it exports mainly, used to export mainly to Russia and Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan, but all of a sudden in 2023, top leader in terms of export is Switzerland. Actually, it is a supply of export of gold. It is below in exported categories in sitting in manufacturing. It is gold and textile products. And because Kyrgyzstan has very good gold deposits as well. Let's move further. Let's speak about investment opportunities. To speak about investment opportunities, we need to understand what are foreign investments coming into these countries. You see that the trend of foreign investments in Kazakhstan has decreased in 2023, but still it is very good, demonstrate very good growth rates for the last years. In Kyrgyzstan, it is increasing in large amounts, but the amounts are much smaller here. And for Uzbekistan, you see great increase of foreign investments. It is doubled. It is because, as I understand, explained to you earlier, a change of political regime in 2018, we see kind of results of new economy being built. As for free charts show here foreign direct investments to which industries they go to. In Kazakhstan, they go to mining mainly and to manufacturing and then to trade. In Uzbekistan, it goes mainly to manufacturing, mining and energy. In Uzbekistan, we see here energy. Speaking about energy, for example, we have here some highlights about recent investments in energy sector in Uzbekistan. Mazars has invested 4 billion in energy sector of Uzbekistan. China has built a solar power plant in Andijan region. Total French, very well-known company, our client actually, has built a solar power plant in Samarkand. Saudi Arabia, ACWA Power is building wind farm and really heavily involved in power plant building in Uzbekistan. It is not only the amounts demonstrated here sometimes, and also United Arab Emirates and Saudi Tabrid is also investing heavily in energy sector in Uzbekistan. Let's go back to Kyrgyzstan. Kyrgyzstan, foreign direct investment in Kyrgyzstan goes to mainly to manufacturing. Manufacturing is actually here combines everything concerning processing of finished goods, plants, everything, and also into mining and financial services. And we see here decrease of foreign direct investment similar to Kazakhstan. So kind of trend of Uzbekistan income is completely different compared to Kazakhstan and Kyrgyzstan. Let's talk about which countries give investments to these countries. A leader in Kazakhstan is Netherlands historically, but it is not actually pure Netherlands. Investment comes from Netherlands, but it is actually all Kazakhstan has very good treaty on avoidance of double taxation with Netherlands. That is why all holding companies, when doing business in Kazakhstan, used to come from Netherlands, and that is why it is seen as Netherlands, but actually behind it, it can be any kind of country like Russia, States, or any other country, even China. As for Uzbekistan, a lot of investments now leader is China, and it's became a leader in 2023, and we have new market players here, which is Saudi Arabia and United Arab Emirates. And of course, Russia is here. And in Kyrgyzstan, also China is number one investor, and its share is around 30%. It's sometimes decreasing, increasing, but it keeps its 30%. And the second big investor is Russia historically. And let's move further. Here we have on the side, on the slide, we selected and gave you links to the sites that are very important, and we encourage you to, after this webinar, to investigate these sites. It is sites of investment agencies of Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, and Kyrgyzstan, and they have very good explanation about investment climate, what is on the economic regimes, and what available investment slots are in these countries. So take your time, please investigate it. And also we have selected here some high potential industries for investment. For Kazakhstan, it is of course mining and energy. Mining, because Kazakhstan is still very rich in terms of reserves of oil, gas, coal, and uranium. It is coal and chemical industry because it has very strategic good coal resources. And of course, it is transportation and logistics. Why transportation and logistics? Because Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, and Kyrgyzstan, it is landlocked countries all, and they really need investment in transportation infrastructure to boom the economies and to develop it. And Kazakhstan is actively participating in the Belt and Road Initiative led by China. And so we will see a lot here actually in coming years. As for Uzbekistan, of course, number one industry is mining, and it is ranked third worldwide in export gold reserves, 11th in uranium, and 12th in copper. And also very high potential we see in construction and building materials investment, because as I told earlier, there is very high level of population growth, and population is now consists around 40% of population is children younger than 18. So these children will be growing up and will need kind of real estate and etc. So it is also Uzbekistan was closed for 25 years, as I told earlier, and so there is a lot to be built, and a lot to be built in terms of infrastructure, everything. So there is now kind of, we already see boom in construction, and it will of course impact banking industry. Mortgages and etc. will be developing, and still a lot of banks are owned by the state, and privatization is on now, and It is very low level compared to Kazakhstan and Kyrgyzstan of penetration of banking into population, and cashless transactions are still very present, significant here in Uzbekistan, and there is a lot to be done in banking industry. As for Kyrgyzstan, of course, mining again, mining because it has good deposits of gold and precious metals. Energy infrastructure, actually, unlike Uzbekistan, which is very strong in agriculture but doesn't have access to good level of water. It is always in need of water. Kyrgyzstan is very mountainous country and has a lot of rivers and under land water access. And so there is high potential in terms of energy. And also tourism. Why tourism in Kyrgyzstan? Because in Kyrgyzstan there is very big lake called Issyk. It is like sea, it is salted. And this is the only resort in this Central Asia region that is kind of available for local population. And it has great potential. Before, they used to protect foreign investors coming here to Issyk, but now government is changing the strategy as well, and it is opening for foreign investors. Here on the side, on the slide we have chosen some. We emphasize and you encourage you to visit site called Auction in Uzbekistan, and you see here on the side you will have all the lots that are available for privatization, not all but majority, and it is interesting to study what is inside, so take your time and investigate it. And also we encourage you to visit this site as well in Uzbekistan, because here you have also, it is site of investment promotion agency of Ministry of Investment, and here a lot of interesting potential investment opportunities you will find. So investigate it, and if you have any kind of questions and etc., feel free and we will help you. And to turn to us, let's go to legal structures. As for legal structures, in Kazakhstan, we have here kind of commonly used legal structures. It is a representative office, it is a branch, it is a limited liability partnership. You need to understand why rep office and branch is visualized here as a triangle, because it is part of foreign company. It is subdivision of a foreign company. It is not separate legal entity. And limited liability partnership is a separate legal entity, and it can be created as a joint venture and etc. What is drawback of branch and representative office? Legal risks signed by local branch can come to foreign company as well, to the head office. And when you come to limited liability partnership, you are safe for legal risks. And in terms of its allowed activity, representative office can do only non-commercial activity, and it is good only for market research period. For example, you have you can search for clients, and this Chinese company signs contract with found client directly, and representative office just introduces the client. So it's kind of only activity that representative office may lead, and market investigation for startup period. But population employees of representative office cannot be high. It's kind of, if it is bigger, of course, it will be challenge for commercial activity. It doesn't pay any corporate income tax and VAT, payroll taxes only, because it doesn't do any commercial activity. As for the branches and limited liability partnership, they are actually absolutely the same in terms of taxes, in terms of allowed activity, and etc. And for the tax regimes, with only limitation of legal risk already explained earlier. And there are some license activity where limited liability partnership only can be used, because license can be given to legal entity only and not to the branch, but it really met very rarely. As for Uzbekistan, it is quite the same. all in terms of legal risk and etc. Representative office it remains, but you see that branch becomes a permanent establishment. In Uzbekistan, there is no branch available as legal form. You can set a permanent establishment only. Permanent establishment became very popular recently. It is used by foreign investors who provide works and services in Uzbekistan and has won big contracts for infrastructure and construction and building projects. And so they have a contract, like a foreign investor has a contract for like 5, 6 or 2 years, and they set up a permanent establishment and do this execute this contract from this permanent establishment and divide onshore income, offshore income, and use permanent establishment, and permanent establishment pay taxes only for onshore part, not on offshore part of income. And here, what is good about permanent establishment, it doesn't need legal registration. You need just tax registration only. It is just tax kind of status, I would say. But it cannot do trade. It cannot be used in manufacturing. It can be used only in services and works. Let's talk about limited liability company. Limited liability company is very good for manufacturing, for plants, importation, trade, and etc. And it is, as I told earlier already, it limits foreign company from legal risks, and it can be set as a joint venture. It has as many foreign shareholders as could be, and it kind of very used in manufacturing industry. Legal form. Let's go to Kyrgyzstan. Kyrgyzstan has here absolutely the same legal forms as Kazakhstan, so I'll not stop here in details. Rep office, branch, and limited liability company, not partnership. But in substance, it is all the same. Let's move to taxes. Here we have a comparative table of general tax regimes. Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, and Kyrgyzstan. Let's start from corporate income tax. Corporate income tax general rate in Kazakhstan is 20%, Uzbekistan is 15%, and Kyrgyzstan is 10%. So the list is Kyrgyzstan. But I would like to emphasize here to Uzbekistan, 0% corporate income tax rate was introduced 2 years ago for export of goods and services. This is kind of very unique opportunity for investors to base some production in Uzbekistan and do exportation from Uzbekistan to cover the whole region. And also, let's look at value-added tax. Value-added tax general rate is same for all 3 countries. It is 12%. Of course, export of goods is 0%. And what is important here, you need to look at Kyrgyzstan. They have a sales tax. It is taxed on total turnover, 2% for services, 1% for trade. It's general rate, and there are some specific rate as well, but you need to look at this. But what is important to tell is in Kyrgyzstan there is one more regime, which provides 4% on total turnover without deduction of cost and etc. And this regime replaces corporate income tax, VAT, and sales tax. So if you have high gross margin, maybe it is interesting to consider about this regime. What about payroll taxes? Personal income tax in Kazakhstan is 10% for residents and non-residents on employment income only. As for non-employment income, you need to look at the treaties on avoidance of double taxation and on the type of kind of income. And for non-residents, general rate would be, there is no treaty available, 20%. For Uzbekistan, it is 12%. For residents and non-residents, it is flat one rate. For Kyrgyzstan, it's 10%, also flat one rate. As for social taxes have withholding part from salary of employees and a cost on a company. And for Kazakhstan, it is 12% withholding part, around 13% on a company. It is quite difficult calculation here. You cannot give one rate here. And in Uzbekistan is 0% withholding part and 12% on a company cost. and Kyrgyzstan is 10% withholding part and 17.25% on a company. Mineral extraction tax is present for all countries and depends, of course, what is mined, in what volume, and etc. Also, there is property tax in all three countries, and it is mainly applies to real estate and immovable property, and the rate is 1.5% for Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan on average annual book value of immovable property, and for Kyrgyzstan is lower. And also, when foreign investor comes to these countries, it needs to know about withholding income tax applied to outbound payments coming outside Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, and Kyrgyzstan. So it really depends here what kind of cash is going outside these countries, and the rates will depend on type of fees paid outside and type of funds going outside these countries. And here we've put what will be the rate for dividends, royalty, and interest on loan paid to Chinese company. In all three countries, it will be 10%. And for other countries, you need to look at the Treaty on Avoidance of Double Taxation. Let's go to tax features. Treaties on avoidance of double taxation prevail over the local tax law. So when you do structuring of business inside these countries, you need to very well investigate these treaties on avoidance of double taxation and choose a shareholder company in right country with right treaty. For example, if you choose Hong Kong has no treaty with neither of these countries, and you will have a lot of withholding taxes. So don't choose Hong Kong. And here also, as for the transfer pricing rules, Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan have kind of big section devoted to transfer pricing, separate laws devoted to transfer pricing. In Kazakhstan, transfer pricing laws exist for many years. In Uzbekistan, it was introduced just 2 years ago. Control transactions are quite the same as in all the countries. It is, of course, a related party transaction. It is, of course, transaction with non-residents, and it is also kind of transactions with in mining industry, in mining sector. As for the local documentation, in Kazakhstan, it is mandatory to be provided to the tax authorities annually if certain thresholds are exceeded in terms of turnover of the company itself and in terms of turnover of the transactions, control transactions itself. If these thresholds are not exceeded, it needs to be provided upon receiving a request from tax authorities. Without request, no need to submit it to tax authorities, but as soon as you have the request, you have to submit it to tax authorities. Tax authority may ask for the documentation in terms of control transactions only, and there is notification annually to be submitted to the tax authorities on participation in international group. In Uzbekistan, local documentation is not mandatory to be submitted to tax authorities, but it has to be submitted as soon as you have a request from tax authorities within 90 calendar days. So you need to understand that if you receive a request for local tax documentation, you will need to produce it within 90 calendar days, and sometimes it is impossible, of course, especially during busy season, and so we encourage to take care about it beforehand and not to be not in a good position before tax authorities. Notification on control transaction is submitted annually, and it is quite big one. You disclose in this notification all turnover, all counterparties in control transactions. And in Kyrgyzstan, control transactions are related party transactions, and local annual reporting and notification is not required, but Kyrgyz authorities may request to justify that your control transaction price is at market level. Deviation of 20% is allowed. Speaking about loss carry forward, in Kazakhstan, it is possible to carry forward for corporate income tax purposes for unlimited amount for 10 years after the loss appeared. In Uzbekistan, it is unlimited in terms of amounts, in terms of period, and in Kyrgyzstan, it is limited for 5 years. in all three countries, losses cannot be carried from periods where a company enjoyed corporate income tax exemptions. And in Kazakhstan, you need to understand that loss carry forward rules are different for real estate and for securities losses generated. And CFC rule, controlled foreign company rule, exists in Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan and doesn't exist in Kyrgyzstan. And there are special tax regimes available for foreign investors. In Kazakhstan, we outlined to Astana International Finance Center. It has unique opportunity to benefit from 0% withholding tax on dividends paid to any shareholder, regardless what kind of activity they do. Even for mining companies, it is available. But corporate income tax exemption in this Astana International Finance Center will be given only for finance companies only. It is a very unique zone. It is regulated by English law. You can work here with your English law documents and etc. It has its court, it has its administration and etc. And it's a very good opportunity for investors. Also in Kazakhstan, we have Astana Hub. It is available only for IT companies on the condition that developers are physically based in Kazakhstan. And it has exemption from corporate income tax, value-added tax, and very good and payroll taxes. And also for Chinese investors, we emphasize to look at Horgos special tax zone. It is located on the border of China and it was specifically created for logistics and warehousing activity, and it provides for VAT and custom duty exemptions, and it is also being developed. It is not. It is also quite new, this Horgos tax economic tax zone. In Uzbekistan, there are over 20 zones with tax exemptions available for investments starting from 3 million USD, but it is mainly only for available from a manufacturing industry if you place production here in Uzbekistan only. And also there is opportunity for IT companies. There is IT park with 0% corporate income tax and VAT on the condition that at least 50% of all services of sales is export. And there is personal income tax rate is instead of 10% is 7.5%. In Kyrgyzstan, there are also 5 zones for manufacturers and warehousing activity with 0% corporate income tax and exemptions in not exemption and decreased custom duties or sometimes exemptions for importation duties. And for IT business, there is also high technology park with 0% corporate income tax, VAT and sales tax, and 5% personal income tax instead of 10% general rate, and 12% instead of social tax instead of around 36% of social taxes. So this is it. What about practical business tips that we would like to share? First of all, you need to understand that in Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, and Kyrgyzstan, you can keep accounting in international IFRS. In Kazakhstan and Kyrgyzstan, IFRS, they applied immediately after Soviet Union period. So for many years, they work in IFRS. It is very good for foreign investor. You can your financial statements of your subsidiary in these countries will be transparent and understandable for you. And in Uzbekistan, IFRS reform started only in 2021, and it is mandatory for large and public business. And nowadays, small and medium business has right to choose either local GAAP or IFRS, but in future, it is targeted that all the companies will be in IFRS model. What are specific difficulties? In Kazakhstan, tax reporting process is a bit more complex, which is actually good because you don't have hidden tax risks here. Everything is very well controlled and very transparent for tax authorities. And it is not kind of a difficulty if you rely to professionals like us with tax reporting process. In Uzbekistan, specific difficulty is very strict hard currency law. All the transaction coming from non-residents going to non-residents are strictly controlled by banks, and there are minimum list of requirements needs to be fulfilled in the contracts, in the invoices, and in acts, and banks pays high attention to it. And if something is missing out of these required mandatory provisions, bank will not your money out or in. That is why it is important also to rely on help of professionals like us in terms of banking. And loans to foreign companies by Uzbek companies is not allowed. It is important to understand. So you cannot take out from your Uzbek subdivision or Uzbek subsidiary a loan. In Kyrgyzstan, what is bad on low level, there is still corruption. For example, tax inspectors come to do tax audit and may say, I have this tax risk identified, pay me this amount, and you are free. It is very bad, but still it is there. But sometimes some investors consider it an advantage because they understand that every risk has its price. Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan still, of course, have corruption, but it is not at low level, but it is at higher level. We don't see it. In normal business, you don't see it unless you are maybe a very big investor. What are nice surprises? In Kazakhstan, very high level of digitalization in banking system. It is absolutely nearly a cashless country, and I have lived in kind of many countries, have traveled a lot in Europe and etc. And in terms of fintech, Kazakhstan is number one. I consider this in the world, it is number one. They have great bank called Kaspi, and you can do everything in Kaspi. It is there are your documents, there is all the transactions, there is all the services, there is shops and etc. It's kind of super app which replaces everything. In Uzbekistan, very high level of digitalization in corporate business documentation, contracts, invoices, and etc. can be exchanged with clients and suppliers inside the country in e format, in electronic form. No need to exchange with hard copies, but still HR documents are in hard version. Kazakhstan and Kyrgyzstan still hard paper documents are required for business. Company registration process is in all three countries is fast. In all three countries, you can register and set up a company very quick if you have all the documents required for registration of company. And usually it is quite a simple set of documents, but the fastest is Uzbekistan. Kyrgyzstan, we right here is medium, but still it is 1 week, the longest term. For Kazakhstan, it is fast, but you need to understand that you will take some time to open a bank account, because after a war in Ukraine, a lot of Russian business and Russian individuals relocated to Kazakhstan, and there is very high demand in bank services. And that is why banks we see slowing down in speed of opening bank accounts. Now it is at least 1 month, and that is why we strongly advise to start process of collection of documents to the bank beforehand, so as not to lose time in bank account period, because sometimes even they refuse nowadays. So it is important to understand. And business documents and lost language in all three countries is mainly Russian. And in Uzbekistan, Russian and Uzbek both are allowed. And this is it. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask.